This thing feels like a smartwatch, performs like one, but costs as much as a good fitness tracker. So here's my verdict early: the Huawei Band 11, especially the Pro, is one of the easiest recommendations on a budget, with a bit of an identity crisis. So let's inspect. Here's the Huawei Band 11 Pro, and welcome to this thorough review. I'm Michael, and as always, this is based on real-world testing. In the case about 2 weeks, 24/7. Mostly the Pro, yet both versions have the same kind of health tracking sensor, so results would be very comparable. And then I will benchmark against devices such as the Oura Ring, Whoop, Polar, and we're not just looking into numbers, we're looking at patterns and how useful these numbers actually could be. The Huawei Band series has been continuously strong in this category, and the Band 11 continues the trend, but you can clearly feel that in the past years, innovations have slowed down. A myth that Huawei now tries to debunk with the 11 Pro especially, and yet the Huawei Health app functionally feels almost frozen in time, hasn't evolved much in the past 6 to 7 years, and that time the industry moved forward with a lot of AI insights, recovery coaching, and more contextual health guidance. Here, Huawei still focuses on raw metrics: heart rate, SpO2, sleep scores, HRV, but without really interpreting them for you. And that's important. Data without context is just numbers. You don't get suggestions like you need 2 days of recovery or you're overreaching, which is something newer ecosystems are getting very good at. That said, the presence of HRV tracking is at this price point impressive. Even some more expensive watches like the Moto Watch 2026 or Xiaomi Watch 5 don't handle this as well, so credit where it's due. Heart rate accuracy is solid, not perfect but consistent, and when compared to Polar H10 chest strap, it performs well enough for most users. Sleep tracking, however, is where things feel dated. It's very similar to what we saw years ago with the Band Generation 6. It can detect naps, but struggles with awake times, even obvious interruptions like getting up during night in order to go to the restroom can go unnoticed. And that's something devices like the Garmin Fenix A handle much better. Stress tracking is present and based on HRV and other signals. Step counting is reliable, and overall, if you're not obsessed with precision, this is a very capable health tracker for the price. And since the sensor stack is identical, this applies both for the standard and the Pro versions. When it comes to workouts, out of the two, the Pro model is the clear winner. And this is where it starts to make a lot more sense. Built-in GPS changes everything. Without it, the standard Band 11 feels limited unless you always carry your smartphone. With the Pro, you unlock proper route tracking, distance measurement, and a much more complete training experience. Now, here's the interesting part. For some activities like outdoor running, Huawei actually provides quite advanced metrics. VO2 max, ground contact time, even leg balance. That's impressive at this level. I even used the running mode to track football sessions because, ironically, the football mode itself doesn't use GPS. That's a bit of weird inconsistency. The heart rate sensor during workouts remains stable and predictable, but it tends to show higher than the actual values. Here's a comparison to the same activity with Garmin Fenix 8, which I'm sure is correct because at no point of time during this workout I was stressing myself at 100%. So actually the Band 11 Pro is not best in class, but in most cases, close enough. And for many users, especially those doing regular cardio or casual sports, this will be more than sufficient. Also, it's worth mentioning that Huawei now supports Strava integration, which makes the ecosystem much more usable compared to the past. So, no, it's not a sports watch replacement, and it doesn't try to be. However, within the fitness tracker category, the Band 11 Pro is actually quite capable. Design is probably the biggest visible change this year. The Band 11 feels fresher, more modern, and definitely more premium compared to the previous generations. Materials are improved, build feels more refined, and it remains very lightweight, which is something I always appreciate. But that's my main concern. The display has grown so much. that it kind of breaks the original identity of the Band series. This used to be almost perfect for smaller wrists, subtle, almost invisible wearables. Now it's closer to a smartwatch in terms of form factor, and while many people like that, it might feel lost in its niche. Comfort, however, is excellent. The Pro version especially feels incredibly light, almost like wearing a Whoop strap, but with a display on top. That's a big advantage. Huawei also keep the same charging pogo pins, which is great for compatibility with older chargers. Unfortunately, the straps are different, so if you have a collection, those won't carry over. One small concern is the plastic strap lugs. They don't feel as durable as I'd like, so just keep that in mind for long-term use. On the positive side, the almost perfectly flat back and the physical button continue to make it more user-friendlier than something like the Mi Band series. Looking at the specs, this is actually one of the biggest refreshes in years. We have a new chipset, we have Bluetooth 6, which hints at improved efficiency and connectivity, significantly larger battery, and of course, the display. The battery life is strong, not revolutionary, not class-leading, but consistent with the right kind of expectations. You can easily get several days of use, even with a bit more active tracking. And in real life, that matters more than what the marketing claims. If there is one component that defines this device, it's the display. This is where Huawei clearly decided to push things to the limits. There is no other fitness tracker right now with a display this good, period. It's bright, vibrant, sharp, and just looks fantastic in real-world use. Even under direct sunlight, it performs exceptionally well, and it genuinely feels closer to a smartwatch experience than a typical Band. And the impressive part is that Huawei managed to keep the weight at just around 18 grams while delivering this level of display quality. That's not easy. However, there's one major flaw: the minimum brightness is too high, in my opinion. At night it can be uncomfortable, even distracting. This is something that could potentially be fixed with software, and I really hope Huawei address it, because otherwise the display is close to perfect. On the software side, expectations should be realistic. No smart assistants, no calls, it's not this kind of device. What you get is a very smooth, responsive interface with clean animations and logical structure. Huawei calls this Harmony OS 6, but in reality, this is a skin on top of the very basic RTOS-based operating system underneath. The UI is colorful, widgets are well organized, and navigation is fast and intuitive. In daily use, it's actually a pleasure. Customization is decent, there are plenty of watch faces, and you can tweak layouts to some extent, but there are still some frustrating limitations. For example, you cannot schedule always on display, you have to manually toggle night mode, which feels outdated in 2026. And then there's the Huawei Health app, functionally still very powerful. Tons of data, deep insights, long-term tracking, but the experience feels dated. The design hasn't evolved much, and compared to the newer platforms, lacks that modern, user-friendly feel. It was great back in the Huawei Watch GT2 days, but that was years ago. Now, before the wrap-up, let's talk about the downsides, because they matter if you're deciding whether to buy any of these. First, the size. The larger display, while beautiful, makes the device less comfortable for people who prefer the compact nature of the previous bands. The sleep tracking accuracy could be a concern. Usable, clearly behind the best-in-class. There is no support for external sensors, which is quite understandable. And finally, the software ecosystem, especially the app, needs modernization. It works, but it doesn't inspire confidence the way newer competitors do. So here is my final take. The Huawei Band 11, especially the Pro, is one of the best fitness trackers you can buy right now if your expectations are aligned. Delivers excellent value, fantastic display, solid health tracking, surprisingly capable workout experience with GPS, and is even trying to replace a smartwatch. But it is not competing with advanced health platforms like Whoop and Aura. Sits somewhere in between, and that's both a strength and a weakness. Because my practical advice, well, if you're looking at the $60 to $70 range, which this kind of fits in, be careful. It's where competitors like the Redmi Watch 5 Pro, even the Amazfit Bip 6, start making more sense if you're patient enough to wait for discounts, especially if you want better sensors and a lot more advanced well-being features. And if you're willing to spend more, something like Huawei Watch Fit 4 already moves into the truly sports watch territory. But if you want something lightweight, really beautiful, reliable, especially if you get the Pro version, I think Band 11 by Huawei is a very easy recommendation. Feels like a smartwatch, behaves like one, but still remembers it is a fitness tracker about the price. And honestly, this balance will be perfect for a lot of people. So thank you very much for watching this review, and as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you have any questions, happy to help. As usual, more information about the product, affiliate links and ways to support the channel posted in the description below. I'm the TechMishka. Gotta see you soon.